Hello, and welcome to another episode of Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayanne, and my pronouns are she and her. I'd like to start today in the spirit of reconciliation by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. So welcome. You will see that it's just me on the couch. I have a bit of an announcement. Nicole has decided to leave the podcast, and I wish her so much joy, and I wish her so well on her craft journey. I really believe that people are in our lives for a reason or a season or life, and I'm really grateful for the time that we had together on this podcast. But I really enjoy bringing you the stories of people who make up our wool industry, especially in Victoria and here in Australia. So I'm going to keep going with the podcast, and I hope you stick with me. And we've got a chock full episode today. So I just will start with a bit of admin. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. And you can also feel free to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below. And please leave a comment. I love your comments, and I respond to all of them and have done since the beginning of the podcast. And please keep it coming, because it's really fun to have all of your comments and know that we're creating a bit of a community here. Okay, so now the Santa sweater cal is still going on. By the time this episode goes live, I think you'll have just a few more days to get your sweaters finished. I'll be announcing the prize winners probably in an episode mid-December. With the busy holiday period and work, just kind of figured out that that's when I can release a podcast at the end of the cal, which runs until the 30th of November. We have had so many beautiful sweaters that are coming through and people finishing up their sweaters. I am almost done with my EXP sweater, and here it is. It needs to be blocked. It looks so tiny, but everybody's sweaters have really expanded during blocking. But here it is, and I think it will block out and this way. And my niece has absolutely fallen in love with it, so I am pretty sure that I'm gonna send it to her for just a bit of a bonus Christmas. So I've just got a seam up. Oops, that side's done. This side still has a few ends to weave in, and then I will block it aggressively. I bought some blockers that pin in straight lines. So there it is. Beautiful EXP sweater. Still needing a bit of love, but ready to go and be enjoyed and worn and loved. It's so fluffy, the fabric. I love this half fisherman's rib. It's really fun to knit as well, because while you're kind of knitting or doing a rib, it's got that interesting knit into the stitch below. And there's also I think I read a book once called Knit One Below that had a lot of these types of patterns, so I recommend that book as well. It gives a really good description about the half fisherman's rib, so if you're intimidated by it, you can learn more about it then. I am recently back from a trip to New Zealand. My husband and I went over for our anniversary and spent some time in the South Island. And boy, is that area chock full of yarn and producers. And it was funny because we had a road trip on the first full day that we were there, and it was just basically fields of sheep for about 3 hours straight. But then I couldn't actually find any. I was having some difficulty finding some yarn shops, but don't worry, I did. So we spent some time out in Milford Sound, which was absolutely beautiful, and then drove back through a town called Teanau. Now Teanau has a gorgeous artist hub where they sell artworks and pottery and fiber arts, and out front they have a seat where you can actually just sit and pick up some knitting and just knit in front of the shop. So I bought what I think is a really fun hand spun from this shop. Here it is. How gorgeous is this? And even better, it came with a bit of a swatch. So check this out. How fun is this going to be to knit with? And I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do with it. I feel like it's quite might be interchangeable with some kinds of spin cycle, so I'll do some research on those patterns. Joji Locatelli just brought out a pattern, I think it's called Unicorn, where a yarn like this is held with another yarn, and it's just a beautiful top-down sweater. But I love these colors. I love the stripes. I've got about 500 grams. Sorry, there's just a lot of yarn over here. Hand spun, hand dyed by the Spinning Lady. Recommended needle size is 5 millimeters, so it's probably a heavy DK or worsted weight, and that's what it kind of looks like to me. And I'm so excited to knit with this beautiful color. I just find that when I knit with color like this, it's a bit of a dopamine hit, and it'll be something bright and fun to wear. So this was the first stop in Teanau, the Arts Hub. Then we stayed in Queenstown for a few days and did some day trips in and around Queenstown. The first one was out to a town called Wanaka, and that town is it's up in the mountains. We had to drive through a mountain range to get there. It was spectacular. We did a beautiful hike up Rocky Mountain, I think it's called, so to the top of this mountain, and at the bottom in the town was a yarn shop, yay, called Wools of Wanaka, and they had some beautiful yarns there. I was mostly interested in something that was grown and produced all within New Zealand, and I found a beauty. This one. It's a company called Brushtail, and it's Upcycled Merino Possum. And it is in this, I'll try to hold it up to the camera, but it's a kind of heathered dark blue. There, that's a really good representation of the color. And it's an 8-ply, but it's a fairly thin 8-ply. There's 130 meters in 50 grams, so what's that, 260 for 100 grams, so it's almost a sport weight. It is so soft. And what have I thought to I actually haven't thought of what I might make with this. So if you know of any really good sport weight patterns, I'd love to hear about it. I've got a sweater quantity because, you know, I don't know, I was on holidays and I haven't bought wool since Bendigo, since the sheep and wool show, so I wanted to get some special, really special skeins. So Merino and Possum. I'm thinking sweater, but I'm open to other possibilities. It's just beautiful. I think we spoke a few episodes back about possum yarn and how possums are a pest species in New Zealand. They actually learned more about this. So they will eat the eggs out of the nests of the native birds. And if I back up a step, because New Zealand was formed by effectively volcanoes and earthquakes, as an island nation, they have, I think most of their indigenous animals are birds. So they're really at risk of losing that natural fauna, if you will, the birds that are there because of these pests. And there's some other, it's possums and stoats. I think there was one more, but when you're walking or tramping in New Zealand, you see a lot of traps, and they try to humanely trap the possums, and then they can use them for yarn, or we saw slippers or blankets even made of possum. So possum yarn from Wools of Wanaka, just a beautiful shop. If you happen to be in that neck of the woods, I would highly recommend it. So much yarn. I know I was not meant to buy any yarn this year, but this trip came up and I really wanted to immerse myself in the wool and yarn experience and all that New Zealand had to offer. So I did. And that's the beauty of travel, isn't it? So what was next? In Queenstown itself, there's a lovely shop called Frank's Corner. And Frank's Corner specializes in locally made artisan products. So again, they had things like pottery and jewelry, artworks, as well as some beautiful hand-dyed yarn. And I got three skeins of this colorway, which is called Fjordland. Now, Fjordland is the name of the national park, which is, I guess, southwest of Queenstown, and that's where Teanau is, and Milford Sound, and some of the most stunning scenery and landscape that I've ever encountered in my life. And I think these colors do capture quite a bit of Fjordland. You've got the white to me, which is the snow. So a few mornings we woke up and there was new snow on the top of the mountains that we could see. You've got these greens, which it is an incredibly verdant land. It's just, yeah, there's some pinks in here. So it was springtime. Obviously we're in the southern hemisphere, but it was springtime when we were there, and there were these beautiful pink flowers everywhere in the trees, and you would see them on the paths as they had fallen. So this colorway, I think, is really special. It's by Kiwi Yarn A, Rebecca Folds, and you can find her at Kiwi Yarn A. I think she is also on Instagram and Facebook. And I just love this, and it's a 4-ply, and I thought to hold it with some fluff, so I had to, so that I could knit with it straight away, when I got back, I found that Natural Fiber Arts was selling Surrey silk in a natural color. So I've got this, it's blowing out a bit, but this white color to hold with Fiordland. I think it will make it, it'll soften it a bit. It will make it more of an 8-ply, and I think some kind of cardigan would be beautiful in this. So I will be thinking about what to make from that. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear about it in the comments. The other funny story is that the Frank's Corner shop that's in Queenstown only had 2 skeins, so I bought the 2, and then we went out to another town called Glenorchy, which is also beautiful. They have a beautiful wetlands walk that you can do, that we did when we went out there for the day. And the Frank's Corner in that town had 1 skein of Fiordland, so I bought that. It turns out to be the same batch number, so I was thrilled, and lucky me. Now I have 3, so I've got a sweater quantity. Yay! Wow. I know, it was, feels like it was a little bit of a New Zealand yarn shop hop, but I think it was worth it. Anyway. There was one more day trip that we took out to a town called Clyde. Now Clyde is old gold mining town, and it was really quite interesting because evidently many people who were involved in the gold rush up here in Victoria, in Bendigo and Ballarat, that area, would then travel from Australia down to New Zealand because they had some gold discovered there. And there's an area in the South Island called Bendigo, and we had dinner one night at the Ballarat Hotel. So it felt like many of the names were quite similar, and just a really similar history. So it was quite interesting to see the parallels between Victoria and South Island. So out in Clyde, which had some beautiful historic buildings, there's also, it's also the home of Touch Yarns. And they are definitely on Instagram, which is how I found them. And they do the most beautiful mohair. It's a merino mohair blend, and I had to get it. It's fabulous. It is, it says that it knits as a 12-ply, so I'm hoping to knit up some kind of big, chunky turtleneck, because this will be so cozy. This is the color Duck Egg Blue, and it's 210 meters per 100 grams, but so fluffy, and grown and spun in New Zealand, so it's got quite a provenance. Maybe the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit. I think it's got a big cozy turtleneck, that boxy shape that I really like, and I did get enough to do it. I wanted to make sure I had enough yardage. So Touch Yarns. You walk in that shop, the left hand, it's in a small cottage, and the right hand side of the cottage has 2 rooms that are full of beautiful homewares and books, and then on the left hand side is all the yarn, which is they do this mohair merino blend, they do straight merino blends, they do some alpacas, they have some natural colored yarns, and they've got these dyed yarns as well. and it was just, they do patterns, they had needles. On the back, I think they've had some fabrics and some sewing. So again, if you're in that area and touring around, it's I think a must stop if you're into yarn, yarn craft and sewing. The other really special yarn that I found there, and this is ultra special because it comes all from one station with a female shepherdess, Philippa Cameron. You can follow her at Philippa Cameron What's for Smoko. She's just released a book as well, I think a book of recipes, all from the station. And it is this Otemata wool. It is in, the color is called the Outcast's Gray. So it is a blend of super fine white and black merino wool. And you can see it's this beautiful gray taupe color. The average micron for this wool is 17.7. So I think microns below 15 are what they use to make like a very fancy wool fabric. So this is pretty close, pretty, like, I can't even get over how soft and plump this wool is. It's DK, I think 8 ply, and has 108 meters per 50 grams. So that's what, 216 for 100 grams. So it's pretty steady DK weight. And I cannot wait to make with this a lumberjack sweater by Nicole, a local Sydney-based designer, and it just has a beautiful shawl collar, and I'll make it up for Larry, my husband. It's just wonderful, and they had exactly the number of skeins that I need for that project, so it was perfect and meant to be. That is, I think, all of the New Zealand yarn shop hop. So how fantastic was that? We just had a great time, relaxed, and got away from work, and was able to really unplug. So that was really special. It's the first time that we've been away together since the pandemic. We've each had individual trips to visit family since then, after the lockdowns that we had in Melbourne, but it was really special for us to get away and to have fun. So it was really, really great trip. I highly recommend Queenstown and South Island as a vacation getaway. And another really great thing to come about it, which is also a good transition, is that through some internet searching, I met Lisa Can. Now, Lisa is a Melburnian, like me, but also spends quite a bit of time in Queenstown, and she has a podcast as well called Continental Drift Knits. If you don't know about it, you can follow her on Instagram and on YouTube, and I highly recommend checking out her podcast. She has some great knits and an absolutely gorgeous sweater, Instant Crush, that's what it is, Instant Crush by Hohi Locatelli, that she made, and it's just fabulous. So hop over to Lisa's YouTube channel and you can have a look at her knits as well. I've got one other acquisition that I picked up. It was actually the day before we left for New Zealand. I was at the bookshop and found this. I couldn't believe it was actually at just one of our standard bookshops, but I immediately had to have it. I love this sweater on the cover, which is the Nature Lace sweater. Oops. I also love the AVI sweater, which is another fisherman's rib sweater. And then check this one out. It's gorgeous. All the details, the Barbro blouse. I just think that is stunning. I've been wanting to make a lace sweater, but that isn't now I know how I want to say this. They're lace sweaters, but they're contemporary. They don't look kind of old or aging. They're just beautiful. And the other patterns, there's a really good range of patterns in this book, I think. So everything from simple knits to more complex, like that Barbro blouse has some beautiful button detailing in the back. This one is 7 strands of mohair. If you can think about knitting them all at once, it's got a beautiful effect with this fade. And have really enjoyed just looking through this. I find knitting pattern books inspiring, but I bought this one especially because there's a few sweaters that I think I would really like to make in the future. So that was a really good pickup as well. I feel like I've been a bit spoiled this month, but that's all right. It was my wedding anniversary month, and we had a great trip. So anyway, what else? What else do we have to share today? We'll move on to book recommendations. So some of the comments that I've had have said that that our viewers really enjoy getting a book recommendation. So I've got 2. I have read in the physical copy 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. So this was the copy that I read, which is a story of 9 people who head off to a health spa and what happens while they're there. It is also a series now on, I think it's on Amazon Prime, and I'm watching that and really enjoying it, although the series is nothing like the book. It is I can't put my finger exactly on the genre. I think it's meant to be a bit of suspense. I found it a bit humorous as well, but it was an enjoyable read, and the show has been enjoyable to watch, so I can recommend this book. The other book that I listened to was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, and it was definitely a thriller, kind of mystery about a woman whose half-brother is missing, and he lives in what's described as a beautiful apartment building in Paris that has very interesting occupants on each floor, and the story is told through those occupants. So each chapter is a different voice, a different person or character who's kind of narrating that portion or that chapter. So it's really interesting structure, compelling storyline, and I really enjoyed listening to it. So I can recommend The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And now on to tea pairing. If you follow me on Instagram, then you will see that I have announced that it is now time for T2 Christmas breakfast. It is now the season and it is now available, and I am drinking it now. And I keep sipping my tea because I want to drink it while it's while it's hot. Anyway, this tin, it is the first year they told me that they have put it in a tin that is not labeled with Christmas breakfast. And how beautiful is it? Look at these colors. I love the tin. You can hear it, I can smell it. It's just got this beautiful orange spice with black tea. It's totally my jam, and I literally could drink this year round. I wish T2 would make this year round. Maybe they just, I don't know, call it gingerbread breakfast or something, something else. Anyway, I highly recommend this tea for the holidays, and PSA, it does go on sale on Boxing Day. So I've got mine now and will be stockpiling from the 26th of December. All right. I think that's me done. I think I've got plenty of new acquisitions that I need to go cake up and start swatching and get planning for knitting. We are moving into the summertime here in Melbourne, so I've thought about summer knits, and I might do some summer knitting recommendations or patterns next month. It's just been a bit hectic with the changes here at the podcast, as well as travel, balancing work, and things that we all do. And yeah, thanks for sticking with me, and until next time, happy knitting!